It might not surprise you to find out that I spend a lot of my life on the internet. And while I'm there, having a great time, I find a lot of burning board game questions. So this is Matthew Answers the Internet, where I, with a lot of your help, attempt to answer them. The first question I have is, which is the best convention? Easy answer, the one that is closest to your house. I mean it. I think a lot of the time the best convention is the one that's easiest to get to, and possibly one that you can stop at for free because you're stopping at your own house. You don't have to pay for a hotel room. But like most of us, if you don't live near a board game convention, there's lots of things to take into consideration. Not all board game conventions are created equally. Some absolutely excel in one thing and don't try to do another thing. Whereas another one only does the thing that Convention A doesn't bother doing. Convention A has loads of vendors but nowhere to play games because it's not really about that. Convention B, loads of places to play games but not that many vendors because they're not interested in doing that. So it really does depend on what you want out of a convention that defines which is the best convention. There's 3, maybe 4 different types of convention just by a matter of scale that go from 60,000 people at Gen Con, 20,000 people at PAX Unplugged, 3,000 people at AirCon, which just happened. Wasn't it a great time? And a couple hundred people at like your local general board game convention that happens in your town. For me, the thing that I enjoy the most about conventions, I do love seeing new games, getting to see things and getting to buy stuff. I love a bring and buy, flea market type of things you might call it in America perhaps, but like a bring and buy. Oh, that's my favorite. I love that. I love that. Rummaging through piles of board game bargains, trying to find something great. But for me, ultimately the thing that makes the convention great, for me personally, is who's there, my friends, because that's really what I want to do. I went to PAX Unplugged in December and, you know, halfway through it, a few of me, my friends, and Paula, my friends Nick and Mike Murphy, and my friend Dave, we all just like, do you want to just blow off going to the convention at all today and just hang out? Because that's all we really wanted to do. We all had a great time at PAX Unplugged, but we all knew that the reason we're having a good time was because we were all together, especially with the world how it's been. That really is the best part of it, I think, for me. But for some people, that's not even going to go onto their radar for what they're looking for. I mean, maybe you're into board games, but you love cosplay. For that reason, you go to Gen Con because of all the cosplay stuff. There is no definitive best board game convention. There just can't be, because it really depends on what you want. Obviously, I like to see conventions become better companies, become better ambassadors for the hobby. I do like to see that happen. I think we see that happening more and more all the time. It's certain that money is a massive factor in board game conventions. It's a great privilege to be able to go to PAX Unplugged. It's a flight for me to get there. It's a flight for most people to get there if you don't live in Philly. So it's expensive to do stuff like that. But I do love board game conventions. I really, really do. There's just something wonderful about being around the thing that you love with the people that you love. And that's pretty good, right? So what's your favourite board game convention? Let me know below. I've only ever been to conventions in the UK and in America, so if those conventions aren't there as well, I'd love to know about some conventions that I've never even heard of, probably. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. But before our next question, there's just a quick word from the sponsor that made this episode possible. Decorum from Floodgate Games is a cooperative hidden information game where you and your partner share the same objective. Decorate your home in a way that makes you both happy. The problem is, different things make each of you happy and nobody says exactly what they need. So what may at first seem like a straightforward logic puzzle, Decorum is also a game about communication and compromise. The real challenge isn't just solving the problem with the limited information you and your players have, it's dealing with the frustrations that will inevitably occur when your partner does something that messes up your plan. By introducing and providing an incentive to resolve conflict, Decorum mechanically encourages, it even requires, a positive form of compromise? Can you establish that compromise, or is the writing on the wall where it shouldn't be? Follow the link in this video's description to Floodgate Games website, where orders open on March 28th with a retail release on April 19th. The next question I found really interesting. It's noticed that party games aren't ranked very high. Why? Now, ranked, I believe they probably mean on Board Game Geek. And for me, I feel like I've got a good answer for this. Because comedy movies do not win Oscars. And I think what we see in board games with lighter games and party games especially not being highly ranked, I think there is some connection there. It's super interesting to me. I think we'll go with party games as the example for this because, you know, with comedy movies, you see that the actor is fantastic when they do a dramatic role and you go, wow, I never knew that actor was such a good actor. They just do comedies. And the connection that's never made is, yeah, they are a great actor. That's why they are good at doing comedy. Arguably, comedy is harder to do than drama, but it's not as respected. So when they make the transition, you go, wow, they're so good at doing drama. It's like, yes, because they've trained in comedy, which was harder to do. I think the same thing is about board games. We do love to see complexity, and we appreciate and respect complexity. Interesting complexity that's been added, that's smart, and you go, oh wow, that's been done, and that's, oh, that means that, and that adds to that, and that's all done there, and that's all balanced, and you can see this has been mathematically worked out. And while I love games like that, so many big heavy games that are really like, oh, I need to think 16 plans ahead, and if I chop this tree down in round 1, is that going to mean I'm going to be able to be sanding that wood in round 16 so I can make the clogs? I love that in games, but I think true genius can very often shine, not only shine, but can very often shine through the simplest of games. The elegance and genius of design, the inspiration of a party game that works. It's why we don't see that many brand new ideas in party games, because often you think everything's been done. When you see a new idea in a party game, in a party game world, board games are very good at being able to make you think, but to be able to make you laugh. It's funny with party games that they manage to synthesize something that only comes naturally and organically, which is laughter. I think there's not enough credit given to some of those games. What are your favourite really simple games? That might be a good thing to put in the comments below. Think of the simplest game that you absolutely love. I'm always looking for games like that, so I'd love to see those in the comments below. And the next question is, what are your favourite board game apps? There's a lot of board game apps. Board game apps are a big thing, big business, comparatively in the board game world. And by this I do mean things that you can download, like to your phone, for instance, that are specifically that board game app. Not things that are on Tabletopia or Board Game Arena, apps that you can have on your phone. Something that's really great about board game apps, I think, is really shown in the app for Anirim and the app for Friday. And that's because both of those games can play really, really quickly, but if you're playing the physical versions, they're both really good games. But if you're playing physical versions, you can spend almost more time shuffling cards and setting the game up than actually playing. And playing the board game app allows you just to click 2 buttons and the game is all set up again. Normally because you lost the last time, the game's all set up again. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of a board game app. That really does help, not having to shuffle cards in an iron. Jeez, you can play it so quickly. Baseball Highlights does a very similar thing. It really helps you just quickly play the game because you don't have to do any of the setup. Other board game apps I've really enjoyed are Doppelt So Clever and Clever Huck Dry. Jaipur, the card game. I've enjoyed Tippy Toppy, which is a really good card game. I've enjoyed Railroad Inc. Sagrada, the app, I've absolutely loved. I've got my phone out here. Cat Lady. I've played quite a lot of Cat Lady on my phone. You can play it in about 30 seconds, and it's just, I have enjoyed it. I do think that Roll and Writes in general have made very good board game apps. Cartographers, Explorers, Rustling Leaves, Railroading, all those just play quickly and I've really, really enjoyed. Though I do have to say, I prefer playing things like Yellow and Yangtze, for instance, on my computer. I really do, rather than on a phone screen. I'm always looking out for new apps. I was super surprised a couple months ago when I found out that Savannah Park had an app. I was like, no one announced this. Cracks of Quedlinburg, is that out now? Who knows? I'm recording this a little bit in advance. That'd be a fun app. There's one coming, if not out already. I think it's a great way to explore and find new games. And if you've got any real good recommendations for board game apps that you absolutely love, let me know. Because I tell you, I'm always looking for a new, good board game app. And the final question is, when does the shelf of potential become the shelf of given up? Games you've decided that you're probably never going to get played. You know, there are times I've given up on games. The number one reason is just thinking, I'm never going to find anyone else to play this game with. You know, I'm into a lot of games that I think are probably quite obscure a lot of the time. I'm like, oh, this is a 50-year-old abstract strategy game that looks like a 50-year-old abstract strategy game, but it's really good. And sometimes I just have to give up on the idea that it's ever going to get played. I felt the same way with some heavier war games that I've been wanting to get into more and more and more. It's just finding people to actually play those games with who are willing to put in the effort to learn them. And sometimes I've just gone, you know what? I don't think that's ever going to get played. A game recently that I thought, you know, I don't know if it's ever going to get played was Space Empires 4X. And it sat on my shelf and I thought, you know, I think it's time to make room on my shelf, and Space Empires 4X, we're never gonna have fun together. And it made me sad because I really wanted to play that game. It's just finding people to play it with, right? I don't really like getting rid of a game out of my collection if I've not played it. Because, you know, you think, what if that game is brilliant and you really could have a lot of fun with it? But there is a crucial time, I feel like, to play a game. That excitement period between learning about the game, getting the game, and it's sitting on the shelf. There is a window there where you are still excited about the game, and it's not just become something that's sitting on your shelf. I think if you can get all your games played in that window, I don't know how, but if you can do that, then you've got more chance of getting everything you've got played, right? And you never have that shelf of unplayed shame, which isn't the best kind of phrase for it, but you know, if that window of excitement is very important, and when it closes, there is always that chance it closes kind of forever. So what games are there on your shelves that you look at and you've thought, well, probably never gonna get played? And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll find some people, connect them together and find some people to play those games with, or different ways to play them. With the online world being how it is, there's opportunities to get lots of games played with people that are nowhere near you. So that's always something that's exciting as well. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Matthew Answers the Internet. I just appreciate the absolute living daylights out of you. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to continue your journey with us on what you played, then you certainly can with one of the videos that will show up at the end of this one. But until next time, thank you so much, everyone. Bye.